Okay, I hope my mic is working. It's always, I still haven't nailed it, like going live and just being completely put together and ready. So I'm doing the weekly live this week because I recorded it previously, and when I was about to upload it, I realized I made a mistake, and so I had to record it over. So I decided to do it live. And if you're up late, aren't you? So am I. I was pretty wired last night for the lunar eclipse. I could not sleep, and I screen maxed. I didn't do anything. I mean, I did some constructive things, but okay, just doing trying to figure out. The beginning of these is always so boring. Oh, hi. Everybody's here. Ashley, Saxon Creative, hello. Thank you for being here. So, does my mic work? I guess it must, because Ashley's talking about what time it is. Okay. So I wish I could, well, whatever. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna do the weekly first, and then if there's anybody around, we could talk about other stuff. If you're still awake. So I recorded the weekly last week because I've been recording 2 in a row at once and then posting them because that makes my life so much better. And yay, yes, sound is fantastic. Very good. Thank you, everybody. I want to clip this to here, but I feel like the sound is not as good. Tell me. Can I get away with this? It doesn't look as cool, though. It doesn't look as cool. Ugh, I don't know if I like that. Whatever. Okay, so now I have something to do with my hands. I recorded the weekly last week. I realized there was a mistake, so I have to make it over again. And so what I did was I transcribed what I said, and then I made it into a little script. I made it a little better. So I'm just going to read that. And so it'll look like I'm reading for a while. And maybe I'll stop and talk to you along the way. But I'm going to try to blow through it, and then I can be free to talk about other stuff. So we're in between eclipses. And something I've noticed is that this is beside the point, actually. I wrote this because I was just thinking about it last week, and then I wrote it in the script that I made for this week. Something that I've noticed is that Western people will use Vedic astrology, quote-unquote Vedic. I never call it that. I call it Jyotish because that's what people in the Hindu tradition of Hindu lineage doing that kind of astrology, that's what they call it. They'll use Vedic astrology for their app because they think it's the more real, more correct astrology. And if you understand both Jyotish and quote-unquote Western astrology, then you understand that's not the case. Okay, so anyway, this week is like stepping down a path of garden stones, and those are the only hard and organized things, and everything else is swirling around you, and it's like glittery gel of flux and change. So while everything churns and changes around you on Monday, the moon conjoined Saturn first thing in the morning. Hang on. I wrote this whole script, but I want to make sure that sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed that sometimes I say, hi, Angle. I like your name. Sometimes, if you have been a viewer for a long time, you have noticed that sometimes I'll say the wrong day, or the wrong word, or the wrong planet. And when I used to edit my videos, I used to catch that. But now I know I do it, and I don't catch it. So hopefully I caught it in my little script that I wrote, but it's possible that I didn't. So I'm just reading this. I'm like Ron Burgundy. I just read whatever's on the teleprompter. Hopefully it's not wrong, but I just had to get my notebook with my transits so I can refer to it in case I want to. But I made this script and took the time to make it so I could be lazy and just read it. Jyotish is out. Ashley says Jyotish is out by 18 days. The like difference between tropical and sidereal. It's just like looking at, I don't know the exact day amount because I just do Western astrology. I'm not, there's symbolic stuff that I take from Jyotish, but I don't use the sidereal zodiac. And so thank you. If it's 18 days. It's just like looking at things from a different perspective. If you've done, I like this example, if you use isometric drawings, or if you look at isometric, like engineering drawings, they'll draw, like if you draw a car from the side, then it's this long shape. And if you draw the same car from just the back, then it's this little, it's a much different looking shape, but you're still looking at the same thing. So anyway, while the moon conjoined Saturn first thing in the morning on Monday, and this is a little different from the moon conjoining Saturn recently because Saturn is back in Pisces. And as I mentioned last week, we're revisiting the last couple of years, March 2023 through May of this year, 2025. And now through the beginning of 2026. It's like, I forget what day. So now through the beginning of 2026, we get a chance to wrestle down something in the Pisces parts of our lives and decide how it's going to materialize or take its final form. Nothing is final. Change always happens, but this is a long journey. What's happening right now in the Pisces area of your life marks a long journey of bringing something down to earth, concretizing it, making it real. And it's kind of being done in an unwieldy way. Like it's something that really wants to come into reality, for better or for worse, with the eclipse energy. It could be like whatever's going on in the Pisces part of your life. It could be something that you really want to make real, and you'll do it at all costs, and you'll like, you will charge towards that no matter what. And it could be like obsessive or confusing. That could be a thing. But as long as you know that, because I'm telling you, then you can watch out for the kind of like trying to get something done, trying to make something happen at all costs. That Rahu, the North Node, which is symbolized in Jyotish by a ravenous head that is chopped off, that has no stomach and can never be satiated. So even once you get the thing, like, are you going to take it further? That's what's going on in the Pisces area of your life. So whatever Pisces signifies for you and whatever part of your chart is the sign of Pisces. I also have a course on how to read your own chart. It's in my little membership area. And I also have reels. I linked a reel below that is like how to look up. It's a reel that's like how, it's a short. We're on YouTube right now. It's a short that is how to look up your Time Lord, the planet currently activated for you. It's like how to look up your chart, how to find your Time Lord if you don't know that. And then it also says like what your ascendant ruler is. So that'll be useful for later. I talk about it later. But you can also see what area of life the sign of Pisces is for you. Because everything I just talked about is going on in that area of life. And if you don't know what time you were born, you can use the sun. You can pretend that the sign that the sun is in on the day you were born, you can pretend that's your rising sign. And then you can like delineate the houses from there. Like where is Pisces from there? Do you have any questions? If you have any questions, put it in the chat, and or actually make a comment, I guess, because I'm gonna try to blow through this, so I'll probably miss a lot of chats. Anyway, my membership also has a few little like private posts. What I was going to do originally was like make a bunch of weird private posts and make it like a private blog, but the platform I use can't do a blog, so it's like this weird newsletter situation with posts, and haven't done that in a while because I started making a lot of short form content. But there are some like weird little interesting posts. There's like a little library of strange stuff. And soon, I'm figuring out the dates, so I have to wait for some of my own undulating currents of change to settle a little bit, but I will be bringing back, starting the Picatrix back up again. And if you're not in that, you can't join it. I'm thinking of possibly making it something new people could join in on, and just making it like a higher monthly membership rate for new people who want to get on the restricted section tier, and like some sort of big like lump sum to join, because something I was a little bit laissez-faire, but I had a much tinier, I still have a tiny audience, but I had a much tinier audience when I started doing that, like studying the Picatrix as a book club. And then the people who came in, and those are all very cool, wonderful people. And then I realized, like, as I started rereading the Picatrix, it's like, you need to keep this information safe. You can't distribute it to people in a like flippant or casual way. So I might make it just like astronomical if you want to join me. And so that's what's going on there. And if you're already in there, you have a little bit more information. Okay, so okay, this is my script where I talked about, wow, I just talked about everything. I skipped all that. Okay, so we're near the beginning of a process of bringing something down to earth fully, and at the very end of this Saturn in Pisces period, we'll look back in the past and say March 2023 through early 2026, Saturn transited Pisces, and some major things happened in the Pisces area of your life. Like, if you can't see it now, you might be able to see it a little more clearly now that we have much more hindsight with Saturn in Pisces. But a couple years from now, you'll look back on this exact time period and you'll be able to see it. So if you have planets in the sign of Pisces, something that Saturn does, aside from telling you no and making you a sad little Pisces and making you discouraged and disillusioned and making you feel like you can't get in, like you can't get your foot in the door, or like there is no door. It's just a cell junction. You can just like pass between walls, or you can't. And there's no logic in this place. Saturn makes things real. So there's something that's been in development in regards to any planets you might have natally in the sign of Pisces, and just the sign of Pisces in general. So whatever whole sign house coincides with the sign of Pisces, something in that area of life has been coming to fruition. Wow, I'm repeating myself. How did I said this and then I wrote it over again, and still didn't catch that I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. So Monday starts with that, and that's tomorrow. And you might sleep through it because we're up late. But what we've been working on over a long period of time that has its roots in what we may have wanted in the past, we're straddling the very recent past and the immediate and somewhat far-reaching future, meaning like the next decade. That's Monday. That's what Monday starts with. And then the moon moves into Aries a little bit before noon on Monday morning. So there's a pretty marked change in tone. I think I need to just fold this. I'm holding my iPad. Okay, I lost my place. I locked my iPad. I locked my teleprompter. Aries. The moon goes into Aries. I should have just used my brain and figured out the transits all over again instead of reading this, but I'm going to keep going. Okay, so Um, okay, so the moon moves into Aries a little bit before noon, Pacific time. And there's a change in tone. So we have the moon and Saturn in Pisces Monday morning, and then later on Monday, the moon with touching Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, and it's the moon in Aries. So that's really different, and Monday distinctly illustrates what's going on in between these eclipses and the types of change and what the change pertains to and how long you've been working on it. Maybe I should read this on my phone. Sorry, everyone. I'm a Libra. I need like someone here to talk to me while I am doing stuff. Like, see, I can't think. I can't think and talk to you at the same time. Okay. I promise that I'm going to get my act together soon. Okay. So, Monday illustrates what's going on in between these eclipses and the types of change and what that change pertains to and how long you've been working on it. So right now it's kind of like mixing concrete, and it might take an unexpected form. It's like you're mixing concrete and you pour in the mold and then something different might come out. And I think I mentioned that last week. But late Monday night, the moon trines Venus. The moon in Aries is trining Venus in Leo. And Venus is not quite at the end of Leo. We're nearing the end of Venus's transit of Leo, but it's like at the very end of the second decan of Leo. And maybe Monday night is fun, and maybe in a way like it goes a little too hard. Like it's a little uncomfortable because it's too vigorous, or maybe just extremely dynamic or exciting, and maybe a little bit too exciting. Monday night has the potential to be fun. And it's the same for all of Tuesday. It gets a little complicated at night. So the moon-Venus trine on Tuesday goes exact around 6 p.m. Pacific time, and the moon squares Jupiter, which is also nice. A square is frictive. It's not as easy, and it's the moon ruled by Mars in Libra, about to complete an opposition with Mars in Libra. So Tuesday there's optimism, but it's also a little rough, and it might be a little exhausting. And after about 7:45 p.m. on Tuesday, after the moon completes a square with Jupiter, the moon will be headed for an opposition with Mars in Libra, and the moon is still ruled by Mars in Libra, so maybe don't pick any fights on Tuesday night, or be alert to the possibility that somebody might want to pick a fight, and try to meet that with compassion. So the high you might have been on Monday maybe crashes a little bit on Tuesday, or things get more complicated or aggravated. And the sun is going to conjoin the North Node on Wednesday. Man, I need like... sometimes I use like a pencil to hold my mic, and I really want that right now, but I'm not going to get up. So the sun is going to conjoin the South Node on Wednesday, and the first part of Wednesday, the moon is void, and I keep using the term no man's land for a void moon. And the sun conjoins the South Node in Virgo on Tuesday. It's like Tuesday afternoon. So we have a solar eclipse on the South Node in Virgo is that next week? I think it's like the end of next week. Yeah. So this is a little like foreshadowing or a sneak preview. And we've just come off a North Node eclipse in Pisces, and we're headed towards a solar... That's what I said. I'm just reading my writing and saying things. So In between eclipses is like in between worlds. I'm trying to find my light. Um, and it's the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. So it's like in between, like being practical almost to the extent that it's kind of boring, and like running the numbers and being organized. In between that and just like fully delulu. You need to brainwash yourself into being successful. And that's like what I keep saying for Neptune and Aries, but there's something to that also with this like North Node and Saturn and Pisces thing. Like it's a very different recipe for a similar dish. So we keep getting this theme, right? Like it's all over social media, all the time. Like you need to hypnotize yourself. You need to go down into your subconscious and like brainwash yourself into becoming rich or beautiful or famous or whatever, because that's how it works, and that's not wrong. But there are two big signatures pointing to that right now in very, very different ways. Again, I like the example of like very different ingredients creating very similar dishes. All these things, I also talked about it in the very short, I tried to do a short live thing and it felt very hasty. But now I have all the time in the world. Anyway, it was called Saturn Neptune Chat, if you want to look at it. I started talking, like going into my thoughts on Neptune and Aries specifically. And I have more to say about that. So I'll do another one, like a part 2 later. Anyway, the Neptune and Aries thing is like a romanticization of the triumph of the self. And like you need to be delusional in order to self-actualize. So that's Saturn in Aries. And that equality applies in a similar way to this eclipse series with the North Node in Pisces, and Saturn in Pisces, and Mercury on the South Node in Virgo. And it's just like a very different version of that. Neptune in Aries is going to, whereas Neptune in Aries is like romanticizing your own self-actualization. That's one version of it. There's lots of other things that that's about. The North Node in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces thing is like being a little too heavy-handed and maybe even belligerent. I don't know if that's the word I want to use. In making something happen. And it could also be like you're you are charging so hard, you are going so ham that you like blast through an authority trying to stop you, or you hit a wall, or it's just like the drive towards something is it could be too much. And in some ways, like with the South Node of Virgo, it's like it's not going to be organized, so who cares? Let the chips fall where they may. And wherever they land, that's where they're going to be permanently, except nothing is permanent, and the only thing you can count on is change. And that's one version of Saturn in a mutable sign. The only thing you can count on is change. But think about, like, what are some other ways besides crunching the numbers or meticulous planning and organizing that you might be able to influence where the chips fall? Like, I don't think you can control, there's a lot of stuff right now that you can't control completely, but what can you do with your inner attunement to do the best you can to make sure that, like, things are going to turn out for the best, no matter what. And one way, my Reiki teacher said one time, presence is protection. Like, or protection is like presence. So if you're present in the situation, that could be a form of protection, and that's like a way of controlling the outcome while like letting God do God's work. So one way you might be able to influence where the chips fall is to do something similar to what, like the way you might influence divination, because by saying in service of my highest good and from the highest source, or in service of my highest good and in the service of the highest good of all and from the highest source, let the chips fall where they may. So it's a time where everything is in flux, and trying to control the situation in the normal way you might be used to controlling things might not work as well. So one thing that Mercury conjoining the South Node can bring is like a kind of clarity in Virgo specifically. So the first part of Wednesday, it might be a little low energy, and you might feel oh my gosh, what am I doing? So I did Tuesday, and now we're on Wednesday. The first part of Wednesday, you might feel disillusioned and maybe indifferent, or just like a little dry. And we're headed towards a solar eclipse on the South Node in Virgo. So you might be getting the first like exclamation mark suggestion of not identifying very closely anymore with something in the Virgo part of your chart. Like deciding, I don't want that anymore. I need like some kind of, I need like water. I have some hibiscus tea here, which I should drink out of a clear cup because everything else on my set is red, but it's not a clear cup. It's opaque. Engel says, it feels like the universe is working your way around and things are getting, but they're slow. Haha, or maybe we don't have the patience. Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, Saturn makes things take longer than you want. Okay, I'm gonna do both. I'm gonna have water and tea. Thank you, Harnum, for the encouragement. Engel says, last night was eclipse night, so I have really watched it quietly. It felt like more karmic. Yeah, I tried to watch it too. And then I forgot that the eclipse was actually at like 11 in the morning Pacific time. So I feel like whatever. That's the annoying thing about astrology is the further you go down the rabbit hole, the more you like feel compelled to try to control the timing of things because you have the information, but then like you're not supposed to. You're supposed to just live your life and act from your heart and do what you think is right and love everybody and tell the truth. But so it's weird. It's weird information to have. Oh my God, I can't believe that's still so hot. Okay. So you might decide that you don't want something anymore, like very suddenly. And we're in between eclipses, so you don't have to decide. You don't have to make any decisions right this minute, but sometimes you do. So I don't know what your situation is, but sometimes the eclipse energy can make us very emotional. It could be very highly emotionally charged, and then we think we have to like do something immediately. And sometimes we actually don't, not all the time. Sometimes we don't have to do that thing like right in that moment. We can wait until we're a little more calm, but that's at your discretion. And just know that during this time until the fall equinox, basically, you don't have to make it, you might not have to make any rash moves, but you might really want to. Or the situation might call for a rash move. I don't know. But actually think about it. Like, do you have to do this right now? Because sometimes emotions are heightened. Sometimes you get weird ass dreams. Anybody having those yet? Mine are rolling right in. They just begin immediately. And you're subject to all this deep information from your subconscious that wants to like leap out and change the world like completely unchecked and unprocessed. And Virgo is the sign that wants to process, and Virgo is the sign holding the South Node right now. So Virgo is very like, F it, to hell with it. But when you realize you have options, then you have options. Like if you have that presence, that's one reason why protection is present. Because you can like consider if you're present and not just like reacting, you can consider your options. Sometimes when we're not present, we don't think we have options. So even if something feels urgent, consider if you can get out of the passion of the moment, consider whether or not you have to pull the trigger on whatever that is right now. If you get like into a heightened emotional situation. So if you haven't already, you might get the first urge to act or the urge to say to hell with it, but you maybe don't have to do anything because the moon is also void on Wednesday. Like Wednesday evening. No. Oh my God. My notes. Okay, hang on. Sorry, everybody. Okay, not Wednesday evening. Wednesday morning, the moon is void until 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. That's when the moon moves into Taurus. So in the middle of the day on Wednesday, the moon moves into Taurus, and then the moon is squaring Pluto, like late afternoon, early evening. And it's early evening if you're on the East Coast in North America. And the moon squaring Pluto might add to any frustration or urge to act or not act. Sometimes the moon in axial alignment, which is a square opposition or conjunction with Pluto, can make you feel not necessarily doom and gloom, but like definitely doom. And sometimes like aggressive doom. And with the moon's ruler Venus opposing Pluto by sign, there could be something about perceptions or how you're perceived, or something getting in the way of how you're perceived, what you want to show others, getting in the way of like what your body wants, because it's the moon. And as I keep mentioning, our optimal health is being interfered with by the underhanded corruption of the infrastructure over the next 20 years. So on Thursday, Thursday pings one of the important characters involved in this eclipse season, which is Mercury in Virgo. So Mercury is the ruler of the upcoming solar eclipse on the South Node in Virgo. And today, most of the day, Thursday, is just, okay. I'm Ron Burgundy and I lost my teleprompter for a minute. Most of the day Thursday is just the moon applying to Mercury in Virgo by trine, and the moon in Taurus trine Mercury in Virgo. Oh, yeah. Okay, I said that two different ways. So yeah, I'll read whatever's on the teleprompter. Ashley had to hit the powdered vitamin C on the eclipse. Okay. Were you feeling depleted? Engel says, dreams are also in the script, so I wrote it mostly. It felt like present and where my soul is, and when I remembered it, it felt more emotional but energetic. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Writing it down is like doing something with it. There's something Carl Jung said that I'm not going to say as well, but it was like you have to do something. If you have a dream, you have to do something with it, especially like inspiring dreams. Okay, so a little bit before the moon trines Mercury on Thursday, Mercury conjoins the south node. So in Jyotish, the Hindu tradition of astrology, the planet that does the least well with the north node, which is opposite of the south node, is Mercury. And that's because the north node has a correlation with confusion. And the north node is just like getting after it at all costs. It has a thing it wants and it's going to get it. So it's kind of similar to like hunting and you're starving. You're going to die if you don't get the thing. Except the north node is like things don't work, like hunger doesn't work quite the same as it does in like human bodies. This is a angry ghost head with no stomach, so it can never be satisfied. So there's like a blindness because it's just trying to bring something into the material world at all costs. And the south node takes away from the material world. And that can feel like being deprived of something sometimes. And it can also sometimes be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like this anymore. So the south node can impart a spiritual benefit from subtraction of the material. And if we're subtracting from exalted Mercury in Virgo, one function of the sign of Virgo is to process, specifically separate what we're going to keep and where we're going to put that and what we're going to throw away and where we're going to throw it away. So something I see with Mercury conjoining the south node is clarity. Like the clarity that comes from deciding to discard something or deciding you don't need something. And whatever that is in the Virgo part of your life and whatever else Mercury rules in your chart, is going to be subject to that dynamic. And you're going to see a little bit of it late Wednesday, early Thursday, specifically. So the Gemini part of your life, like whatever happens to the planet happens to the house. So this eclipse stuff in Virgo and everything happening in Virgo with Mercury transiting, that affects the Gemini part of your life too. And it'll affect wherever Mercury is natally in your chart. And whatever planets Mercury is connected with. So people say that astrology oversimplifies life, and now you can see that's actually a little more complicated for everybody. So most of the day, it's just like necessary if you're speaking to an audience to simplify it, but that doesn't mean that that's like everything that it is. So most of the day is just all that, Thursday. And it may or may not feel maybe like kind of joyous. Times of eclipse are like times to be careful and tread lightly. They're not necessarily joyous, but this lunar eclipse was connected to and ruled by exalted Jupiter. So there's some sort of silver lining, or like, the magnitude of the benefits could result in some sort of like reasons to have to be careful, but there have been way worse eclipses, but just still don't make any rash moves. Thursday seems all right, considering. So we got through kind of the gnarliest part on Tuesday and Wednesday, and Thursday is mostly like the coast is clear, and then we get a rapid succession of exact aspects with the moon in Taurus, trining the sun in Virgo, which just came off of the south node. And the moon in Taurus is sextiling Jupiter in Cancer, which is really nice. And it's happening at night, which is nice. And the moon in Taurus is also squaring its ruler, Venus in Leo. So there's kind of a lot going on Thursday. The moon on Thursday night could be a little more elevated or lighthearted. If you're going to do something fun at night this week, consider Thursday night, or for some reason, I wrote or do it Tuesday afternoon, but I don't know about that. I don't know why I wrote that. I don't recommend Tuesday afternoon for trying to do something fun. It's not that it will definitely not be fun. It's just like, if I'm going to give my top picks, Tuesday afternoon would not be one of my top picks. But do what you will. So on Friday, wait a minute. Did I? Oh, okay. So on Friday, we begin chapter 2 of Jupiter's relationship with the sun. Jupiter conjoined the sun on June 24th, and that was the beginning of a new cycle of Jupiter with the sun. And this will be more important if Jupiter is your ascendant ruler or time lord, which is like the planet activated for you this year. So if it's one of those or both, then this aspect I'm talking about, Jupiter sextiling the sun, will be more important for you. It'll show up like more prominently for you than for others. And again, if you don't know what that is, I put a link to a short that shows you how to look it up for free. So part 1 of Jupiter's, we could separate it down into, just like with all fractions, you can separate it into as many parts as you want, but the biggest chunks are like, it's like 3 books, and then maybe this is like another chapter in book 1 of Jupiter's yearly story about its relationship with the sun. Part 1 is this past June 24th through November 11th. And that's when Jupiter stations retrograde. And so we're in phase 1 of Jupiter's cycle with the sun, which is like, Jupiter gives like grants success and luck and optimism and makes things feel cohesive and coherent. It gives things meaning. Like wisdom sort of weaves a lot of the world together in a way that makes things feel meaningful as opposed to make rational sense. Like that's Mercury and Virgo. So if Jupiter gives success and luck, the first part of the Jupiter cycle kind of like front loads that. Like you can get things in advance, or like you can get like the benefit of the doubt is a major benefit that Jupiter in its first part of its synodic cycle before it stations retrograde can do. And then when Jupiter stations retrograde on November 11th, you have to start making good on those advances. And you might notice that the benefits are halted. And like you've already got your angel investor. You got your angel investor in the first part, like your series 1. And now you have to actually produce the results until Jupiter stations direct, like so from November 11th to March 10th, 2026. And then like from March 10th until like sometime in the summer, I forget, that'll be like phase 3, which is like actually getting, reaping the rewards. The good stuff that Jupiter brings is like, it's more along the lines of having been earned. Not that you haven't earned any good benefits here, like, you know what I'm saying. So we're halfway through part 1 of the 3-part Jupiter story when the sun sextiles Jupiter at 12:30 a.m. in between Thursday and Friday. So we're in the middle of, I already said all that. Repeating myself is like sometimes a bad habit. Also on Friday, most of the early part of the day is concerned with the moon in Taurus sextiling Saturn in Pisces again. So Saturn is here to make things real. And the moon is activator of the zodiac. And the moon also like gives things an embodiment. And water and earth make mud so you can build. Taurus is a material sign, an earth sign. And we're looking at building on Friday. So maybe it's like, sorry, something weird happened. It's my robot parts malfunctioning. So we're looking at building on Friday, and maybe it's something small. It could be something small, but it somehow relates to something bigger that you've been working on for a few years, depending on your chart. excuse me. So on Friday in the late afternoon / early evening, depending on where you are in North America, the moon moves into Gemini. And so immediately after the moon becomes Mercury ruled, because it's in Gemini now, Mercury sextiles Jupiter. So this is a very strange time for Mercury. Mercury is responsible for the solar eclipse that's coming up. And it's responsible for Uranus, which is in Gemini, which just stationed retrograde last week. So it's still slow in the sky, Uranus is. And Mercury is now sextiling Jupiter. So first of all, we're in between eclipses, and this is Mercury in the sign of its exaltation, sextiling Jupiter in the sign of its exaltation. This seems wonderful. And again, it's water and earth. It makes mud, so you can build. And this looks to me like exalted Mercury, sextile, exalted Mercury. That's Mercury in Virgo, sextile, exalted Jupiter, which is Jupiter in Cancer. This looks like, I think of like an intricate sandcastle. A potential for one, if you want to take the initiative. It doesn't like build itself. Mercury and Jupiter don't get along very well, and if you look at the signs they rule in the zodiac, those signs are squaring each other. There's a book called that I haven't read, called The Magic of Thinking Big, and that's a very Mercury-Jupiter signature. And Steve Jobs said, a computer is a bicycle for the mind, which is another good example, I think, of Mercury and Jupiter. Like, there's a greater vision that can get you farther than just the facts and being organized. So a computer is a bicycle for the mind, except in this case, there's something about how the material world is organized and nurtured. Like, how do we put things in the right place so we can use them? And if we look at this exalted Jupiter and Mercury sextile, this is an opportunity to make full use of your resources. Like, you have the tools, you have the technology. All you have to do is like answer the call. So this is like, you get a surplus and you know where to invest it to maximize the nurturing of whatever the thing is that's getting the support. And you maybe have, it's in between eclipses, and there's something about subtraction also. So you might have like, it might be like deciding not to take someone up on an offer. It could be something like that. Letting go of something that you don't feel is aligned, even though it's tempting. I don't know. So look at which houses in your chart rule the signs of Virgo and Cancer. And look at what, houses don't rule anything. Which houses coincide with the signs of Virgo and Cancer? And then what houses do the planets Mercury and Jupiter rule? Ashley says dreams are the facts from which we must proceed. I love that. Carl Jung. That's a really good sentence. Thank you. So I like to talk about how the signs relate to the body, and what part of the body does the sign of Cancer preside over? The stomach. It's also the mammary glands, but we're just going to use the stomach for this example, although the breasts do pertain to nourishment, so there's a correlation. It's not just random. So that leads back to the stomach. So if we think of, like, using an example, like we have a better grocery budget, Jupiter's in Cancer, and we know where to direct it, and we know what kind of food to get, and we're able to feed ourselves and give ourselves the maximum nutrition that we need. These planets and these signs are like the metaphor of like eating and feeding your body and making sure your body gets what it needs is like a really good example because of the parts of the body that Cancer and Virgo are associated with. So now we just need to make sure our body can actually do something with it. And I even wrote this. I wrote this in my little script, but this wasn't meant to be a plug. Like when I started talking about this for my course that I have on optimizing your digestion, I wanted to make a skincare course, and then I just like skincare is optimizing digestion. So I made a course, and I'm still adding to it. So it'll be expanded soon. I started like making it in July, and I thought I was going to finish it, but even it was supposed to be a mini course, and then it just like expanded before me, and there's a lot more I need to add. And once I add that, I'm probably going to raise the price. So, but if you get it before that, then you'll have all the stuff that I add, and you'll get it for it's in beta right now, basically. Anyway, this aspect is very thematically aligned with the course I created earlier in the summer. So, and I'm just going to keep talking about optimizing digestion. I made a course about it, but this aspect is like, it's a really good metaphor for what's going on with Mercury, exalted Mercury sextile, exalted Jupiter. So you can eat all the amazing food that you want, and you can eat as healthy as you want, but no matter what the actual inputs are, there are things you can do to make sure that the inputs are fully absorbed and not wasted, or like fermented in your body in the wrong way before it gets to the small intestine. Like you want to provide, like make it easy for that meticulous organizer of your small intestine to do something with it. And just apply this to the Mercury and Jupiter parts of your life. So the sign of Virgo pertains to the small intestine, and it's like, here are all these materials, we're sending this to the trash, we're sending this to the place where it can be used best. So if we think of the stomach is getting you have a better grocery budget, you're able to get what you need. That's like Jupiter in Cancer. The stomach is getting, if the stomach is getting the best nutrition in the optimal order, because that's the thing, like eating things in the right order, and the small intestine has access to everything in the right order at peak freshness so it can put it away properly, that helps your body get what it needs. So there's something going on in like the Mercury and Jupiter parts of your life that is very much this dynamic. And you might need to like, the South Node's in Virgo also. So a part of this might be like, keep it simple. You don't need like an Erewhon smoothie to be healthy. Anyway, I just really go off about digestion, and I don't feel like I need to, but when you don't, like, if you're not using this, like, South Node energy, like having some discernment, inviting clarity, then, and like allowing your body to be bogged down with the abundance that you have access to, then your body is spending more energy on processing. And all the energy that your body has, like, it's always earmarked for digestion first. So if you're not efficient with digestion, then your body's going to use up all this energy, and it's not going to send it to like your skin and hair and the things you want it to go to, making you more resilient health-wise. So I really wrote a lot on this because I'm a nerd about it, which is why I made a course about it for fun. Let me just scroll past all this because I think I made the point. But that's exalted Mercury, sextile, exalted Jupiter. And I think it's a wonderful aspect. I'm excited to see what it brings, even though we're in between eclipses, and what it brings is going to be weird, or it's going to like fork the timeline, has the potential to fork the timeline in an unexpected way. Like I said in the beginning, like we're pouring concrete into a mold, then it's going to look, something that's going to happen differently. And eclipse energy is considered like malefic energy. It's not like, and that's because it has like the nodes of the sun and moon move the opposite way through the zodiac from everything else. So the changes that they bring can feel like going against the flow of what's happening in life. Like a real change of course. Ugh, I don't know. You know who I think my hair looks like right now? Have you ever seen the movie Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead? I think my hairdo is like it's like the brother in that movie right now. And I'm trying to like mold it to not look like that, like not be that shape, but that's just what it's going to look like. So I don't remember that character's name. Anyway, there could be like a benefit that is much needed that changes everything, or maybe you don't need to accept that benefit or all of it, or like don't take more than you need. So keep in mind the moon, activator of the zodiac, is pinging Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. So there's something far-reaching here and something that relates to the next decade. And since the moon's next aspect after exalted Mercury, sextile exalted Jupiter, is a sextile with Neptune, there could be something that gets in the way of it or that ultimately dissolves later, or maybe there's some sort of adversity that gets in the way that dissolves later, or it's just overly romanticized in a triumphant way, but that's just a Friday. So something in the Mercury and Jupiter parts of your life are unusually beneficial, unusually like effective. I like that word for both of those planets in both of those signs. And the moon is ruled by Mercury when Mercury sextiles Jupiter. So the moon applying to Neptune on Friday afternoon / evening is governed by exalted Mercury sextiling exalted Jupiter. All of the events pertaining to the next decade, whatever the moon... Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chat, but I can't read it. It's just like my computer's too far away to like read it without getting pulled off course. All the events pertaining to the next decade, whatever the moon is going through and activating, whatever situations it's revisiting, have to do with the seedling developing. Seedling is not a good term because those are like, I'm talking about like the future and fire and air signs. Whatever's developing over the next decade is governed by this beneficial right now, like on Friday. Friday has the potential to like point the rudder slightly in your favor in the Mercury and Jupiter ruled parts of your life. So this will be particularly pronounced if Mercury or Jupiter is your time lord or ascendant ruler, which you can look at the link I put in the description if you don't know that stuff, what those planets are. And you can look up your ascendant ruler using the real... Oh, yeah, I already said that. And then this technically happens on Saturday, but it's really Friday night, but I'll change the thing, my little date marker. The Sun and Mercury conjoin, and this is Mercury's exterior cazimi in Virgo. So we're halfway between the end of one Mercury retrograde and the beginning of another. Excuse me. Hang on one second. As soon as I have any kind of money, I'm going to have a hair and makeup person immediately. That'll be one of the first things I spend any discretionary money on. So the exterior cazimi is like in between the end of one Mercury retrograde and the beginning of another. It's like the very center. Mercury retrogrades happen 3 times a year. And also that was like so fast. I feel like we just had the interior conjunction, which is which marks the center of a Mercury retrograde. And that happened on July 31st. Time has really gone by quickly. So it's a very interesting week for Mercury and Jupiter and those parts of your chart. And the other thing I didn't mention is that exalted Mercury sextiling exalted Jupiter are the eclipse rulers. So we're in between eclipses, and we just had a Jupiter-ruled eclipse, and we're headed towards a Mercury-ruled eclipse. And the eclipse rulers are connecting, and they're exalted, and they're connecting in a beneficial way. So you have a rare opportunity to make things work. And that could have far-reaching consequences or results. So this particular window of change is a little unwieldy, but it could be way worse. So you have the opportunity to make the best of a good situation. When I was in my 20s and 30s, there was this wealthy family with these daughters who were famous in the town that I lived in, and they built their own notoriety, using that wealth, and each of them in different ways. And some resentful people around me would kind of talk trash about how these girls came from wealth. They were doing cool things in the world and still are. But people would talk trash about them, suggesting they didn't do anything to earn what they built for themselves. But I read this article in Vanity Fair around that time about the family, and there was a sentence that stuck with me forever in terms of considering whether or not anybody deserves anything. They said these young women made the best of a good situation. And they could have sat back and chilled and did nothing, which is also fine. And they could have just spent the money carelessly, but they didn't. They each set out to build something based on their vision. And those are the conditions we have right now. So things are going to change no matter what. Things are going to concretize into the new version of life that's really different from how it was in March of 2023. And you have an opportunity to make the best of a good situation. And the sextile is Venus's aspect, and sextiles point to an opportunity to bring something down into embodiment. Especially with this water and earth aspect. So the ruler of the next eclipse, Mercury, is contacting the sun, and the next eclipse is a solar eclipse on the south node. So there's something around a sharp clarity that comes from, or can come from, subtraction. Also detachment. There you go with my this hairdo. So the moon is waning, so we're not filling our cup, we're emptying. But we're going to make sure that we don't take more than we need. And we're going to make sure that if we do collect a surplus, if we have a surplus, we're going to use it wisely. And we're going to send it exactly where it will be best used. A part of this is allowing the chips to fall where they may, just having faith and making sure that our inner attunement is pointed towards the idea of everything is in service of your highest good and from the highest source. And sometimes I have a really sick, twisted compulsion of believing that God is trying to kill me or trick me, at every turn. And that's probably not even God that I'm summoning when my inner world insists on that. But do you live in a friendly universe, or do you live in an evil universe? That's a good question for this eclipse time, when it's times of eclipse are not so much about wishing or doing magic. Definitely don't do that. They're more about observing what change is going to come to pass. And working with it. So believe that you live in a friendly universe. Decide to continually ask for everything to be in service of your highest good and from the highest source, and in service of the highest good of all, and let the chips fall where they may. Because in between eclipses is a time of year that's not really about making wishes. During this time, we observe the changes taking place according to everything that has come before, and trying to control it too much can lead to other problems, or fork the timeline in unexpected ways, or like corrupt the mold that your concrete was poured into. And if that happens, maybe that's exactly what you need. But if it does happen, it can feel like a massive side quest at first. Like eclipses make things feel like they're going against the grain. And you don't have to be self-sacrificing. Your highest good and the highest good of all aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. That can be a kind of like a Virgo mindset of like, I want to be helpful and I'll sacrifice myself and everything in order to make sure I'm being helpful. And that's not always bad, obviously. Sometimes that's really good. One of the first things I learned in the first astrology workshop I ever took is that the woman teaching it noticed that there was a disproportionate amount, like number of sex workers and erotic dancers who have a lot of Virgo in their chart. And sacrificing the self in order to be of service and provide for someone else, like, I thought that was interesting. Anyway, so what aspect was I talking about? I was just talking about the general, like, in between Pisces and Virgo eclipses, and being of service, making sure, like, just kind of praying that everything is in service of your, and believing that everything is in service of your highest good and for the highest source. The exterior Kazemi happens on Saturday. I was going to say something else. It wasn't written down. I don't remember what it was. Oh, that, like, because I'm saying, like, during this time, like, trying to, you know, sometimes we have to control the situation and, like, manage things. And, but with this, like, where the nodes are right now, it's the south node in Virgo and the north node in Pisces. So there is, like, it's both. It's like both of these things. Like, on the one hand, let go and just believe that everything is happening in service of your highest good and from the highest source. And there's, like, in what appears like chaos, there is an order in the universe, and even if you can't see it. And on the other hand, you might be, like, a little too compelled to just not throw caution to the wind, but just, like, not steer the ship at all. Just let, like, the captain's wheel, let the helm just, like, spin all around, like in a movie, like nobody's at the helm. You might be compelled to do that. You might even have, like, a little bit of lockjaw on the idea of doing that and not controlling the situation at all. I know there are some parts of my life where I'm being like that. And you might need to check yourself a little bit and, like, have some restraint. So it's both. And Saturday is the last bit of eclipse light that's, like, conducive to growth, kind of, even though when the moon is in its third quarter, it's waning. It's like it's waning, but it's still considered, like, conducive to growth. Whereas the moon in the fourth quarter is that's the quarter that's, like, cold and things are dying off and it's more subtraction. So, and this time, like, in between eclipses can be considered, like, it's a waning moon, and it's like extreme subtraction. And so in between Saturday and Sunday, the moon squares the sun. So that's the moon moving from the third quarter to the fourth quarter. So now we're in kind of like the desolate time. It's more about like clearing out. Like the clearing out is going to really start to begin first thing on Sunday. And it's like the wind whistling through the breezeway and nothing is really going on. And the moon is headed for a square with the sun. Yeah, and I already said that. And then for a square with exalted Mercury, who just sextiled exalted Jupiter, and who just conjoined the sun. So there's a lot of like first thing Sunday / late night on Saturday eclipse information coming through. And the moon squaring Mercury, if you need to talk about something, maybe a resolution doesn't come as easily as you want it to on late Saturday / Sunday. So there's like a little bit of friction or like things hanging in the balance. And then Sunday, the moon is now in the fourth quarter, and the last bits of energy, like an energy of change, an energy of relinquishing control over the next few days. Sunday begins a week of like how much control can you relinquish? It doesn't mean like there has to be nobody at the helm, but it's like a sense of detachment. So the sign of Virgo likes to wring its hands over every little detail and like worry if things are going to be okay. And there could be like a heightened desire to do that, while at the same time like having control over the details ripped away from you, and that resulting in a sense of feeling not secure or not regulated, because you're not getting like, if the thing that makes you feel regulated is planning in details and organizing and doing all the Virgo stuff, you might not be able to. Excuse me. And again, you might feel like you have to make an extreme decision, but maybe you don't really have to. But maybe you do. I don't know. And so now the light is starting to go away. Like the energy, the one other thing is like you're going to be low energy, probably, especially starting on Sunday. But like times of eclipse are always like the energy is all over the place. It's like high emotional energy, low energy for anything else. And you could also engage, like, okay, so if emotions are high and you want to make a crazy decision, do all the crazy thought experiments you want. Like, I don't know what that looks like for you, whether that looks like some form of like writing it down or just laying down on the floor with some ambient sounds and considering all the crazy possibilities. Like, go buck wild. And maybe that would help in like determining, that's one thing you could do, I guess, like instead of like pulling the trigger on some crazy thing. I don't know. Or you can. Like sometimes that needs to happen. Sometimes like not doing that stuff it will end up inhibiting your growth later. So I don't know what you need to do, but and it's also a complicated dynamic because like Saturn is in Pisces, so Saturn is also like a form of controlling the situation, and it's Saturn with the North Node. So it might be like your hand might be forced off the helm, letting it spin, just letting the boat wander around in the ocean, and that's what needs to happen, and that's what's going to happen, and you have no choice. That could be the situation. So, one time I was looking at the sand on a beach, and see, where's my hair and makeup lady? I was looking at the sand on a beach, and that's random, right? Like, that's just a bunch of sand. But I could see the pattern in it. I could see the order. And and if I squinted, like, not trying to see it, but more like just trying not to see anything, the more I tried not to see anything, the more I saw the pattern in, like, the different little types of minerals, all the different types of minerals that made up the little tiny grains of sand. The more I could see the pattern of, like, how they shake out by weight or whatever, I don't know, the pattern evoked, like, the patterns in Islamic tiling in architecture. It was crazy. So, letting the chips fall where they may, there is an order to the universe that you don't control. You don't have to make the order all the time. That's what's going on these couple weeks. A part of it. A part of what's going on. So there's a lot going on Sunday, and the first part of the day, the moon sextiles Venus and also trines Mars, so the motor is running, and whatever you have to do, whatever you have to, like, roll your sleeves up and do is enjoyable. But by the second part of the day, afternoon/evening, the moon in Gemini squares Saturn in Pisces, so you're being confronted with old topics that have been difficult over the past couple of years since March of 2023, like March 2023 through May 2025. And a theme could be, like, wanting to be chatty, experiencing connection, but having some obligation that requires solitude and tranquility, and maybe even silence or isolation or drudgery. And after that, the moon moves into Cancer. So while the moon squares Neptune, wait a minute. Oh. Okay, I confused myself. So, the moon moves into Cancer, and it's squaring Neptune in Aries, but for now it's not squaring Saturn, which is nice, because we got a taste of that for a few months this summer. And that's nice for now, because over the next 3 years, when the moon is in its domicile in Cancer, it's going to be squaring Saturn in fall. And for the next couple months, we get a break from that. But then we're going to go back into it for the long haul. So the moon's in Cancer, it's squaring Neptune in Aries, and it's like, you need to delude yourself into being successful, into being the best version of yourself. And maybe you're doing, like, a workout for that reason. And maybe that workout is completely inappropriate for your body. If the moon in Cancer is squaring Neptune in Aries, maybe you're getting a jolt of success, but it's not great for your body. Or maybe it is great for your body, but it'll be short-lived, and it'll have, like, some other effect. Or maybe you want to be a bodybuilder, or you want to, like, lift weights vigorously right now, or you think you should in order to better yourself, but you're in the menstrual phase of your cycle, and that's completely inappropriate, and you don't realize it. Something like that for the moon in Cancer squaring Neptune in Aries. Something you don't realize, like your triumphant view of yourself, what you want for yourself, what you want for your body, what your body actually needs, is experiencing some sort of interference at the moment with, like, a romanticized ideal, or maybe just like a, pardon my language, but like a bullshit conflict. And so we're still in between eclipses, and Sunday night is interesting. It's technically the moon is applying to Jupiter, and Mars and Venus are applying to a sextile with each other. So Sunday night seems pretty nice. although we're in between eclipses. And it's not a time to make any rash decisions, and you might be compelled to make a rash decision anyway. And it's not always possible to remember yourself in a moment of unexpected chaos. But you can try to remember, like write yourself a note, tie a piece of string around your finger, or put something on your phone screen to remind yourself that you may not have to make a decision right now. But you may have to. I don't know. But if you're in a moment where it's truly not necessary and you've made a note to yourself, then you can stay calm and you can save whatever crazy action you think you need to do, like whatever crazy thing you think you need to let go of, whatever control you think you need to relinquish all of a sudden for a time. You can save it for a time when you're more calm and regulated. But mostly, live life to the fullest, love everyone and tell the truth, and don't worry about what time it is or what's going on with the planets. And that is the forecast. That was very luxurious to just fully read. There are so many chats. Ingle says it's a good time to be a visionary artist. Wow, yes. Yeah, that is a good point. Hang on. It's just like... Thank you, Ashley. Ashley says, brilliant forecast. Thank you very much. Engel says, also don't get angry and breathe, like it will be all right. Yeah, that's good, too. Easier said than done. Easier said than done, but very good advice. Oh, Engel says, my hair is perfect. Why, thank you. Oh, Ashley says my hair is like Alicia. Or like, I don't know if you're talking about my hair. It would be nice if you were, but said it was like Alicia Silverstone in the 90s. I wish I had hair like that. Okay. These are... I'm overwhelmed by the chats. Oh, Ashley has another Carl Jung quote. Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart, who looks outside, and dreams look inside. Oh wait, I probably butchered that. Viz, my knees are trembling, creaking, even thinking about this week. Okay, well, I wonder what you can do to make that not the case, because, I mean, I don't know what's going on in your life. There might be something, I mean, I was about to like launch into a reassurance that your abstract fears about the astrology are not true, but I don't know what's going on in your life, so you might have like something genuinely like that you're not looking forward to. So if that's the case, I'm sorry about that. But I hope you can unravel the tension that uncertainty about the future causes, and do some squats for the knees. And I'm saying all this for myself. I was like in a very similar state today, where I was like dooming about the future. Oh, okay, a clarification has come in from Viz saying, I'm chillin', I'm just excited all the time. Okay, all right, that's cool. I'm glad you're chillin'. That's, I think, with the North Node in Pisces, that's everybody, that's all we can do. I've been doing sissy squats to tame the trembling, though. What are sissy squats? I don't know what that is. Please tell me. And thank you, everybody, for participating in the chat. I'm probably going to wrap this up soon because it's been an hour and a half. Which now I'm at a point where, like, an hour and a half feels like a long time. Instead of, like, the first couple live things I did, it was like I, like, blinked and it was 3 hours later. So I think I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the chat. I wish I could read every single comment. And do I have anything else? I feel like there's like something random I wanted to talk about when I decided to just do this live today, but I don't remember. Oh, great. Okay, Angle, you're tired too. Ashley, thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for coming to the live stream. And thank you, Angle and Viz. Angle says everything was perfect. Okay, great. So that's a good time to say, remember your Wi-Fi is a camera that can see through walls.